本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It's March 25th, 2022, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 470. I'm your host, Rob Zachney, and I'm joined by Renata Price.
Howdy, gamers.
Ricardo Contreras.
Yo.
And we are all gathered in Lobby 1.
That's not what this is called anymore.
In beautiful New York City.
It used to be Lobby 1.
It'll always be Lobby 1 in my heart.
What is it called now?
I think it's just called the podcast studio.
Oh.
I don't think it has a name.
We could have really used something called the
Podcast
Podcast Studio 3 years ago.
We had G4. G4 was better. IMO. I like G4.
G4 was the size of a phone booth.
I like phone booths are cool. They're neat.
Not for 4 or 5 people.
No, I mean you're right.
I hated G4.
Wow.
It was broiling.
You heard it here first. Rob Zachney mad at the reboot of G4 TV.
I
just wish they'd bring back the old people.
Wow. I enjoyed
Rob Zachney's just mad that women are on G4 TV now.
Wow. I enjoyed G4 because it was normally just me and Austin in there, and that's the perfect amount of people in that room.
In my head, G4 was holidays, like all of us crammed in there, and just being a nightmare.
Sure.
Kato, by the way,
What's that?
I swear to God, I hear myself clipping when I'm talking.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
when you're talking?
But the track looks clean?
The track looks perfect.
Okay, then
Yeah.
again, it must just be that horrible harmonic resonance that we were discussing before the show.
I'm also worried about it, but I've just decided that I will trust the rest of y'all's ears to monitor if I am crisp and clear and have appropriately dulcet tones. Because, like, to me, Rob, it's a crisp fucking Rob. It's not a hot Rob. It's an excellently volumed Rob.
Excellent. Like a dry Riesling. Perfect.
Stupid. Fucking terrible.
So,
Brute. That was in the crossword the other day. And I got it in one. I felt really happy about that.
The whiskey neat of voices, Rob Zachney.
I don't know if that's good.
I mean, I drink whiskey straight and neat.
Yeah.
That's
a good whiskey. That's the way to go.
Oh, I'll drink garbage whiskey straight and neat.
That's bad.
I will
Man, if only Patrick were here.
I will walk up to any bar and look at the bartender and go, one whiskey straight and neat, please.
and
Why
they
did
start
you
to
say it like
to
that?
reach behind them, and you just like point down in the well and just like shrug,
No.
just
down.
like whatever's down there.
I mean, sometimes they're like, do you want the well whiskey? I'm like, I don't care. Like, truly. I mean, like, the thing is not that I don't care. It's not a like, ooh, I just love getting turned. I don't care. It's a like, yeah, I mean, like I just like the taste of a nice whiskey. Like, even a bad whiskey. Like, I like the sweet taste and burn. It is nice and pleasant to me. And so generally, if I'm going to a bar, I will order whiskey neat or like whatever beer the bartender recommends. I'm not really a cocktail baddie, just because I think that they're just generally like too syrupy for me. Like most cocktails I've had are like a little bit too syrupy or just like mid.
See, I'm hearing that, and
Well.
I'm just like, okay, well, hold on.
Hold on. Syrupy. That feels like a very specific type of like we've put
Somebody's
too much simple syrup
somebody's
in
fucking
here.
things up.
Somebody's
No,
fucked up your cocktail.
I'm just not a cocktail girl. Like, I don't know.
No, and that's fine. I respect it, but I also I'm sitting here and I'm nervous that like maybe you just haven't had it.
I've had good cocktails. I've had a couple of good cocktails before, and they've all been good. It's just that I prefer the burny, sippy sensation of a whiskey.
Yeah. No, I got
How
you.
do you
I
feel
gotcha.
about mezcal?
Haven't fucked with it.
It's smoky as well. It's a very different kind of smoky, but it is delicious. And people treat mezcal and more so tequila as like things that you should shoot to get fucked up on, and that's bullshit.
That is
IMO.
It's funny. Mezcal has successfully, whoever is in charge of such things, whoever like oversees things like this, Mezcal used to be the cheap alternative to
Right.
tequila.
Yes.
in the last few years, it has become now the true connoisseur.
Yeah.
Buys
have a
only the
sippy of
finest
mezcals.
mezcals.
Yeah.
And like so, the top of the mezcal market is like stratospheric.
Fucking
It's like
insane.
Japanese and Scotch whiskey territory.
Yeah, I was
that
about to
it's
ask.
crossed into.
There was a mezcal place, a mezcaleria opened up in my neighborhood a couple years ago. It didn't survive the pandemic.
Fuck.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. No, I would have maybe like said like y'all should come to this mezcaleria. It's pretty dope. But cheapest like shot size, which is what they serve it as anyways. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to shoot it, but that's the amount of alcohol we're talking about.
Sippy shot.
Sippy
Yeah.
was like $18.
$18.
That was the lowest end.
$18.
It went up from there.
Yeah.
You know, high end was 60 for like a similar amount of alcohol.
Yeah.
That shit was wild.
So
I never had that.
live that well whiskey life. You know,
Yeah.
Jesus
you and Patrick
Christ.
down in the hall, living within your means.
I like Jesus Christ. I like good whiskey. To like, let me be clear. I will have a good whiskey. I've had good whiskey before. It's just that if I'm going to a bar, so like if theoretically I went on a date recently that caused me to boycott a lunch because I lost a bet over whether or not it was a date. If I was going to go to a bar for that and it was just like, I need to get a social drink for this date, apparently, I will acquire just like a whiskey neat. And that's usually most places going to be a Knob Creek, a Jameson,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. I like a Knob Creek.
That's fine.
Knob Creek is great.
Yeah, that's what most
That
places
feels-
have is they're like a house or well, it's like
Wow,
That
things
feels
have changed.
Too good.
Yeah.
That feels too good for a well whiskey to me. To me, I'm like, I don't recognize that brand is what well whiskey is.
Oh, see, I've gotten very lucky. Like most places I've gone are like, I'll say, "Can I have a whiskey?" And they'll be like, "What do you want?" And I'll be like, "Whatever." And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll do literally whatever." Like they will usually hand me a Jameson or a Knob Creek.
Yeah. No, that was definitely me. I was very into Jameson and bourbon for a long time.
Bourbon's so good.
But it is. Now I am. I love all the brown liquors. I welcome come to Papa. I accept and love all of you. You are all valid. So we're not just gathered here to enjoy the reopening of a podcast studio. We're here.
People have used this other than us. This has been open forever.
I thought you were like, it's been sort of close. There's a sign outside being like, hey, this is in use again.
Yeah. Yes.
So I assume it's for a while it was shut down.
I think the first year of the pandemic, there was no one in
I mean,
here.
arguably.
Yeah.
Let
Given
us
it
let
is-
us feel special, Kato.
It is so quiet in here because they're not like HVACing the shit out of it.
No.
So we're really in like the trust circle here.
Yeah, yeah. We are
We're stewing in
technically-
each other's air juices.
There's I feel a slight breeze. Also,
Yeah.
I can hear noise.
I can also hear a little bit of noise,
hate
and
that.
also
I
like
hate that.
we're fine. We've
It'll
we're
be fine.
We're fine.
Hey, sorry. I almost said chat like we're on Twitch. Hey, sorry, chat. No. Hey, sorry, listeners, for the noise. I'm going to do a fast and dirty edit on this one because we got lots to set up for our
Yeah.
stream this weekend.
Yeah, right. So this Saturday we're doing a Save Point Mini for our friends at Trans Lifeline again, and if all goes well, we're going to be getting rolling at around like 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday and going like all day. So check it out at twitch.tv/waypoint. However, given that we've occasionally needed a little extra time to iron out our setup for live events, there's a really good chance that if you're listening to us right now when this episode drops on Friday, you go over to twitch.tv/waypoint, you might just see some random things throughout the day as we are doing test streams and doing setup. So if you want the chance of seeing us do segments that I think rejected is maybe too strong a word, but Waypoint, like little segments
Sidelined.
that didn't, they didn't
Those
make the main
segments
show.
got waitlisted when they applied during regular decision and not early decision, and
Yeah.
because of this, they were waitlisted from the Save Point stream.
Ouch. That sucks.
I can't imagine what that would feel like.
I'm sure you
Okay,
don't
now
have firsthand.
now I have a question.
Hey, what's up?
First of all, how do you know that you didn't get into a place because you didn't do early decision?
Okay.
What sort of
I
sick,
can tell you
twisted
this
guy,
story.
like admissions counselor?
So this was not told to me. Well, this was told to me by an admissions counselor later. Okay. So when I applied to college, I was invited to apply through a program called QuestBridge, which is a program for high achieving low income students. Because basically they saw my ACT score and were like, apply to this. I applied, I wrote some essays, and I got in. And the way the QuestBridge works is if you apply to a set of, there's basically 40 schools. If you like Google the schools, you will see that this is like a real fucking program. Schools like Williams, Amherst, Bowdoin, Brown, U Chicago, Yale, et cetera, right? This is the tier of school they work with.
Yeah.
And the way it works is if you get accepted into the QuestBridge program, you then apply to all of those schools through a special QuestBridge application that happens during early decision. And if the school accepts you, you get a full 4-year free ride. And the basic numbers is if you get into the QuestBridge program, you are basically guaranteed to get into one of those schools because there's like a relatively rigorous like program to get in, right? And so I did this, and I applied to 13 schools. My family only had money to visit one school, and so we visited U Chicago. And I convinced myself that U Chicago was my dream school. And the way the early decision works is if a school says yes in early decision, you are committing to that school. You can't apply to a different school during regular decision, right? And then so I got worried that if a different school said yes in early decision, then I wouldn't have the chance for U Chicago to say yes during regular decision. And so at the last minute, I backed out of 12 out of the 13 schools I applied to. And then I reapplied to all of them during regular decision. When I was informed by someone that schools during regular decision, basically at that tier of university, the regular decision period is used to fill out their existing class, because early decision is used to actually basically build your pool of students, and then you use regular decision to like fill in the gaps that you have. And so regular decision is way, way harder to get into because most of the slots are already filled by the people who are selected in early decision. And I received the information that I had been waitlisted from all of these schools during my senior high school robotics tournament. So I was the president of our robotics team. I was also our lead mechanic. And I was also the person driving the robot. And so during the day of competition...
This is about to be the saddest, most pathetic visual in history.
It's so bad. You have no idea how bad it's going to get.
Like I am in my head, like REM is now like overlaid on this moment.
So I was in FRC 6054, and that was our team. And I was so stressed because I said I was head mechanic and the person driving the robot and president of the team. And the night before, the elevator opened up in front of me as I was about to get into, like, go downstairs at the hotel we were staying at. The elevator opened, and as the elevator opened, there was someone standing there back to the door saying, yeah, I really think electing Ren as our president was a mistake. I think we should have chosen someone else. As I was standing in front of the elevator, at which point this person turns around and looks at me, waiting to get in the elevator. In my most probably crestfallen moment, one of the most crestfallen moments of my entire life. So that's the emotional energy I was bringing into the final day of competition. But for this final day, there was one round that determined whether or not we got into playoffs. God, the fucking sigh Kato just gave. There was one round that determines whether or not we get into playoffs, right? And I got on the field, and I started driving, and I fully dissociated to the point where I forgot which team I was on and started scoring points for the opposite team because my brain just went into autopilot. I came back to my senses halfway through the round and got us back to close to a tie, which is to say that I drove like my fucking life depended on it. It was the best driving I'd ever done, and I got us back to almost a tie because I had done so well scoring for them in the first half that there was basically no way to catch up in the second half, but I almost did it and failed. And then I picked up the robot and I carried it back to our pit. And then I walked outside and started crying. And then I pulled out my phone and I saw that I had 12 emails from 12 different schools, each of which was a waitlist or rejection.
That's a bad weekend.
It was a really bad weekend. And a dude walked up to me and saw me crying and was like, hey, it's okay. You'll get it next year. And I was like, dude, you have no fucking idea what is causing me sorrow in this moment. I appreciate you so much for trying to help me in this moment of grief. But like, King, this is not your moment to step in and be like, hey, it's all right. You'll do better at the robotics competition next year. 1, no, I wouldn't. I was a senior. 2, that was only one of my problems. That was, I would say, one of legitimately the lowest points of my whole arc, which is why I know so much about the U.S. college system and like the waitlisting system. And the application process, because part of QuestBridge is that they teach you all of that because usually that information is reserved for kids with tutors and people with like legacy students. And part of the whole program is
there's a ton you just told me here that I didn't know.
Yeah, and basically part of the program is that they want to like open this information to lower income students. And so I did all of this work getting into this program. Only to fuck it up of my own volition at the last second, and then have
because you overthought it.
Yeah, and then have the weight of all of that crash upon me in the same weekend that I failed my high school robotics team in basically every conceivable way.
They deserve to be failed.
So yeah, that's my story.
So
right?
how's setup going? Are we good? We're good on setup.
Yeah, we're great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're great. Like
It's
legitimately.
all going now.
Yeah, legitimately.
It's downstairs
Stuff's good.
recording as we speak.
Yeah,
What is it recording?
we're testing to make sure that the computer can handle it because right now it was requested of us that we get ISOs, so like isolated recording files.
Who on earth would request that?
Shout outs
Who
to
in
Jason.
the hell needs an ISO? Oh, Jason needed it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
glad
it's,
we're doing
it's
it.
a good thing.
It's a good ask.
Yeah,
Smart.
Good ask.
No, it's
Smart
good.
To...
No, I saw that request come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're recording ISOs, and we're determining if the CPU load of recording ISOs is going to be too high and burn out the machine and cause it to crash, which is a possibility because the first time we tried recording ISOs, the computer did jump up to 100% utilization.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot believe we already found the limits of this setup.
The limits of the setup are you can't record 5 1080p cameras inputting into vMix at the same time. That doesn't seem that bad.
No.
And that's not just recording. That is like recording and also streaming and outputting. Like if you're not like hitting the record button, the ISO recordings are taking a lot out of things.
Yeah.
We just
Without
need
the
another
record, it's
machine.
fine.
Yeah.
We do, yeah. We there's an option in Vice to like send those things out to a local, like everything on campus, so to speak, can be recorded from a central location called the media control room, but our stream's on a weekend, so we would have to pay those people overtime, which means that it actually has to come out of a specific budget instead of just being their salaries.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to avoid that.
All right, well, then maybe next time we do the primary streaming day during the week.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live during the week. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. It's also like our setup. We talked about the global supply chain on this podcast weeks ago. Our setup is kind of a kind of monster amalgamation of some extra tech that isn't it. It's not in its final form yet.
Yeah.
So some of these inputs and outputs are being run through a networking device called NDI that normally requires more network configuration to be allowed to be like utilized by anyone in this building and all that. Right now, it's like we have a mini server that is just talking to itself in one giant box.
Yeah.
And it's not really how you're supposed to use that, but it works. It's a good, we've leveled up from the I've taped together.
Oh,
two
this
or
is the part
three
that was blowing my mind when
Yeah, we have
like, I was downstairs.
we have a server. We have like a full like audio like a board with like a physical mixer that is like one of the coolest things I've ever interacted with.
The rack that you guys have down there with the stack of equipment. Like when I think about that versus what we had the last time we did one of these, which was an unbelievable daisy chain of like one limited single-use thing that we were stretching way beyond its capacity. Like it definitely. I'm very excited because I've never seen us have a setup like this.
We're doing so much more than we've ever done.
We're so far beyond the trash can.
Yeah, the trash can, which is
This
sitting
thing's
at
like
my
a
house.
dumpster.
It is. It's
Goodbye trash can, which was the size of like a little like
It's like
bathroom waste paper basket or something.
waste paper
Yeah,
basket
yeah.
trash can.
And now we have like
an industrial
one of the
garbage
big
can.
plastic garbage cans that you have like you see at a stadium. Or
Yeah,
something.
it's got the wheels on the bottom that you have to roll it out.
Exactly.
And it has a $12,000 server in it.
Yeah.
Right. The garbage will be our content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, our setup has gotten to the point where I have to say things like, so we're getting the audio in through the monitor, but not through vMix because I think something's getting hung up in Dante. And so if we can check the Dante real quick.
Shout out to Dante.
The stupid fucking dumb joke. I mean, shout out to Dante.
Yeah.
First ever hero of the podcast, Dante Douglas.
Helping with Ergodox images.
Helping with Ergodox images. Helping kind of just emotionally through his presence in our hearts.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently.
A guiding star.
Dante, if you're listening to this, you are my guiding star. He's probably not listening to this.
I don't know. He listens sometimes.
Fuck Dante.
I ate at a restaurant called Dante just because I wanted to honor him.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Rob, for your art.
Yeah.
And for your contribution to culture.
It's like this martini is for Dante.
That's who it's for.
Oh, this martini tastes to me like the finest of keycaps.
I don't know. Oh,
ooh,
God.
Yummy. Ooh, delicious PBT. The dye sublimation in this martini is delectable.
Now, we're doing. This is you could absolutely do like a terrible little round of like a round of novelty cocktails at like a nerd convention.
Kato,
my God.
Kato, others, and I almost went to a astrology themed cocktail bar. Not cocktail, yeah, an astrology themed bar on Monday night. And I feel like weird keyboard bars is not very far off. There's a place in Brooklyn in my neighborhood called Brookland that I've done a fighting game tournament at. And like, actually, yeah, have you been to Brooklyn?
No.
Oh, but I did.
I live in the boring part of Brooklyn. I have a park.
What?
Which park?
Prospect Park.
That's not boring. Isn't that like a great park?
It's a great park. It's just
So what's boring?
it's a park.
You live near downtown Brooklyn.
Ish. Yeah.
Every time, okay, let me say this. This is a bit, I'm going to take one New York moment here. Every time you talk to a motherfucker who lives in Clinton Hill or the surrounding...
I'm not in
I
Clinton
know
Hill.
you're not in Clinton Hill, motherfucker, but if I want to go to Cato's house, I get off at the Clinton, Washington fucking MTA stop. Okay, I get off at that fucking C stop.
The street is called Clinton, but it runs north-south through Clinton Hill, but also south into Prospect Heights, into Park Slope. Well, not all the way into Park Slope. Into Prospect Heights, though. which I'm next to.
Every time you talk to a motherfucker from any one of these neighborhoods and you're like, oh, you live near downtown Brooklyn, they'll be like, no, I don't live near downtown Brooklyn. I live a 25-minute walk from downtown Brooklyn.
Okay, it's a little further for me. It's like a 40-minute walk to downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah, downtown Brooklyn is not that close to Prospect Park, right?
No. Prospect Park is further south and west.
All I know is I was visiting with some friends and I was seeing lots of pictures of bird photos that they're taking in Prospect Park, which does seem like
It's a very nice park.
Fantastic selection of birds.
Absolutely.
So I wish I had more
great
time.
dogs. Lots of great dogs.
Yeah,
need to
I'm
visit
badly
parks.
missing. This is the downside of this trip. I'm badly missing my
We would
dog.
watch movies in the park. You know, it's one of those parks.
Well,
It's great.
I wouldn't watch movies in the park because I
No,
don't like I think probably their ability to project it to my standards, and of course, like
Oh no, it was
sound
a horrible
system.
projection. But
Yeah,
the
so
sound
no.
system was loud enough.
Oh, what was a good projection?
What was a good projection, Rob?
So, you might think, how many times in 1 year can a man see Manhunter? And I think we're going to end up the answer being 4.
I also, real quick, I want to let people in on a little secret of the production of this podcast. Rob went into I'm about to start a new topic face, and then I watched Kato hit the enter key on his fucking keyboard and make a note in the goddamn recording, which is one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. As
We're
you were
switching
saying,
topics.
as you were saying, my darling Rob, about seeing Manhunter 4 times this year.
Yeah, well, so 4th is TBD. 4th depends on when I get a hold of the 4K, the 4K,
okay.
disc that they're putting out later this year.
Wow.
But yeah, so
Is
when
that a new film scan?
I think it's going to be a new scan. I do not think there was a 4K transfer just sitting around that didn't make the Blu-ray release last time. But either way, I got into town and I was like, I have just enough time to go catch the final showing of these 3 days of Manhunter. They've done at the Roxy Cinema, I want to say. And so immediately said goodbye to my friends who were putting me up. I was like, no, I can't hang out. I have to go see Manhunter again. Because they had a 35mm print.
Ooh, nice.
Who can resist?
Was it a good print?
It was aged, and there are lots of scratches and defects on it. But that being said, it was a good print and really different looking than what I have on that Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And I don't think just because it was maybe a little faded just from use.
Sure.
It did feel just overall. It was. I was talking to the guy who runs there is a Michael Manfax Twitter account on.
Okay.
Of course there is.
So the Super Mario broth of Manhunt.
Yes. He was there, and we were talking after the fact, and he mentioned that it did appear to be a noticeably warmer print. So I immediately got into town. First thing I did was race over there.
Nice.
And you gotta just tear off the Band-Aid if you're a little COVID phobic and being I don't know if I can live in public right now. I don't know if I can handle this. And it's you got to go into this tiny little room with so ventilation if you're gonna get your Manhunter on it's the Roxy Cinema, so I can't call it a big screen.
The Roxy in Tribeca?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's smallish.
I used to have my college art studio was 3 blocks from there. It's a weird place to have an art studio because it's too clean down there, you know?
I don't know.
You need the dirt and the grime for your good art.
You mean Tribeca's too clean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those neighborhoods where you're this. I feel I've entered the.
I suspect there was a time when it was not so clean.
I'm sure, but even compared to other parts of Manhattan, Tribeca in particular, Tribeca and NoHo, and Soho specifically, Soho even still feels a little grungy at times, a little more lived in, basically. Where Tribeca feels so manicured and clean in a way. It was did I just step into a TV set of what people think a city is? That's what Tribeca and Fidei feel like to me.
The Warby Parker part of Williamsburg.
Yeah, right, exactly. When you go down fucking what is that, Grand or Bedford?
Yeah.
And then you get a couple interesting shops, and then all of a sudden it's Brandon.
Right. I think it's time that I finally admit something on a Waypoint podcast. I've been here for a month and a half.
Yeah.
which means that I think I am pretty much safe for the thing I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen a Michael Mann movie.
Okay.
We have a show about that.
Mm-hmm.
No fucking clue. Absolutely no idea. Never seen a Manhunter. Never seen.
Me either.
Never seen a Heat.
I saw
Missing out on some bangers.
I'm sure I
discussion-
am.
through discussion of these because I'm always there,
Right.
taking my notes, taking
He points at the deeply.
it's fine, it's
Let me
good.
see how
It's
many-
all good. We're 40 minutes into this podcast, by the way.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 audio files.
Right,
Kato
but there's
gestures at.
three of us, 12 audio files divided by 3. That's only 4 files per person. That's fine. I feel like I watched Thief just because I was like scrolling through as y'all were talking about things, because there were points where it was like, oh, we would want X clip in there, and I was like starting to try to scroll through them so like
Yeah.
that one I almost watched, but apart from that, I haven't seen, but I feel like I've seen because
Yeah.
y'all do such great summaries.
Painfully
and...
detailed.
I wouldn't say the word
Excruciating.
painful. Wow, do you want people to listen to Manhunting?
I know what it is.
Okay.
I know that this is like a
Oh,
listen.
good.
Okay, Austin was like, "Good luck with Waypoint Plus, y'all. I hope you have some ideas." And I was like, "I could do a Manhunter thing with like Alex Navarro and Dialcina, and we can. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I actually really love
Yes.
doing that, and I really enjoy it. But yeah, I'm not going to pretend that like
We're not fan hunting right now.
no, it's just for
It's for you.
Yeah.
We're not trying to fan hunt.
no. We already found the fans. They're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like how I kicked off my New York weekend was racing to see a movie that I already like have seen too many times recently, and all it did was make me realize like, man, that 4K is going to be something. Cannot wait.
Sorry.
Oh, you look like you had something you were
Well,
suggesting.
I kind of had something. A thing about the energy of this particular episode of Waypoint Radio
Yeah.
just clicked for me.
Mm.
This is going to be the meanest thing I've ever said about any of us. Let me be clear.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of the podcast has the energy of those shows where it's just like 3 guys who are like, let's start a podcast with no fucking with no topic and kind of just complain about women the entire time.
Oh,
and we're
God.
not doing that, but this
No.
episode does
Yeah.
kind of have that cadence to it. And I just want that on the record that we know.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast before a massive stream, folks.
What's the podcast about? It can be about anything. Is that your Taylor, Rob?
That got cut from the podcast. People don't know what you're talking about, Kato.
Did it get cut?
Yes, it
Yes.
did. It did.
They're dead.
Oh, I have to go back here and put a marker down, maybe. Did I put one already?
Rob and I fucking tag teaming this podcast into
This is why I explained
relative
why.
cohesion.
I mean, Ren, we can also cut the parts that are like
Can you?
bunch of-
You know what? Feel free. Go ahead. Make the cuts. Make the edit.
well, okay, maybe the Well Liquor and Michael Mann movies bit is too deep in, but we could probably lose the detour into what is downtown Brooklyn.
I do
We could
have.
probably dump that.
I do have. Cut this and cut earlier.
Remember when this was gonna be a light edit for Kato?
This is not. It is. It has to be.
It has to be.
It
There's no
literally
time.
functionally has to be a light edit.
Yeah. So Ren, you have been playing Norco.
I have been playing Norco, which when I first started the video game Norco, I tweeted out, I'm 85% sure, something along these lines. I'm like 80% sure I'm playing one of my top 3 games of the year.
Yeah.
Norco, also a game where like 4 weeks ago, who knows? No one's quite sure. I said, I think this is going to be a good year for this style of narrative driven like a game. And everyone was like, oh, you think it's going to be a good year for it? Ha ha ha. It's so early in the year. You can't make that call yet. Ah ha ha. You fool, you idiot, you dumb bitch. To which I say, after having played more of Norco, I can pretty firmly say it's going to be a good year for this shit. Like, this and Citizen Sleeper will be enough to carry the year alone, because Norco is the first game since Disco Elysium where I will see lines in that game and I will feel the need to text people the quotes to be like, can you fucking believe they put this shit in a video game? Can you believe they have prose this fucking delectable and in a video game? It truly feels like if I was to like describe the writing through comparison alone, it is sitting so firmly at the intersection of Kentucky Route Zero and Disco Elysium. It is astounding. But if I was to like less comparatively describe it, it is uncomfortably intimate, and like deeply rooted in the class politics of the American South. Like the clash and racial politics of the American South through a lens of like deep disdain and intimacy. It's fucking phenomenal. Like beautifully written. It is basically about a young person returning to their hometown of Norco in Louisiana after they have gotten word that their mother has died in like a mostly dystopian, semi-post-apocalyptic U.S. wasteland. And it is fucking
Is it a
phenomenal.
coincidence that Norco sounds like a petro company?
No, it's about so the Shield oil generator, or the Shield, like it is there is a power company at the heart of this game.
Okay.
Norco is also the name, I believe, it is one of the, I think it is, if you Google Norco and don't add the word game to it, I believe you get a medication for drug overdoses, right? That is intentional as well. This is a game 100% about class and like rural and like the rural South in a way that is like absolutely brilliant and like pervades through every single part of the game.
This I'm going through the pictures. It also looks just gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It has the best, like it is like old school adventure game style pixel art that is being pushed to its furthest extent of like fidelity and like like grunginess.
There's something I want to get at, and I don't want to like frame it as if
please.
like it's a negative thing, but so like Disco Elysium, part of this is like there's so many different ways a game of that can go. That game can take on so many different tenors based on like who you choose to be and like how you choose to handle it. Is Norco trying to play in that territory? Is it much more like linear? Like when I think of point and click, it's usually like pretty much a story, and then progress is gated at certain points, and like unlocking those blocks and figuring out how the game fits together is kind of the challenge. It's kind of what you're doing.
I'm not totally sure yet, but the game is doing something like it is, even if it isn't doing the like playing out things, it is doing some of the structural and systemic coolness that Disco Elysium does, albeit in different ways.
Yeah.
So like one of the things your character has is a mind map, and you can see the relationships between each of the games, I think like 20 or so like named characters or primary characters. You can see all of their relationships in your mind map and then dig into your thoughts on each of those characters in a way that is deeply reminiscent of Disco Elysium's like attribute system. Yeah, Thought Cabinet. No, Thought Cabinet actually is the better comparison point. And as you like discover more about the video game, more information appears in each of those, and like more details added to those relationships. But I think if I had to guess, because I'm still relatively early on, I think that it is closer to your standard adventure game in terms of the way which progress functions. But I would be totally unsurprised if the game has a lot of like branching narrative work because of the depth of character and like location involved. It would be odd to me if it did not have that degree of like branching narrative.
Yeah. So about like how far do you think you are in it?
I've only managed to put up a few hours in because I've been doing a lot of work on the production of the show. I'm still within like fully within the introduction, getting to know the town, getting to like
probably within the space of that like demo it's out for it. Yeah.
Yes. Still within the first act.
Does it? I guess we were talking about Disco Elysium as a comparison point, but I wonder whether or not Kentucky Route Zero is maybe a better
I
one.
was
as
also
far
using
as-
that as a comparison point.
Yeah.
because I feel like Disco Elysium has the roles like mid action and discussion and all that kind of add that layer of like random chance into it, where Kentucky Route Zero structurally doesn't have those same types of choices happening in that way, in that systematized way. It's more like you're unveiling a story, and the choices you end up making are more about the flavor of text that you're receiving from the game, and that almost feels like is Norco playing more in that space maybe?
There is systematization of action here.
Okay,
So,
cool.
for example, one of the early things is like you can get your childhood toy monkey to join your party early on, because this game is playing in some
Okay.
very real magical realist space as well. But the toy monkey doesn't talk to you. It just stares people down and makes them uncomfortable.
Great.
But to get the monkey to join your party after having abandoned it for 5 years since you left the city, you have to win a staring contest. And so there are mechanics for basically, there's like a mini game for like appropriately using the monkey, like staring at the monkey that is like tied to the physical action you are doing. There's like small mini games, and the game also does have a combat system. Against like they're like short encounters and like small
Yeah.
encounters, but like each of the little games that you do in your like getting someone to join your team, you then use those same mechanics to attack enemies. And there's like a party system, and it seems pretty light so far, but I can see where it will start to, in an almost Undertale-esque way, start to express things happening narratively through these mechanical systems and through these like minor like game feel sections.
So that is available now?
Yes.
I think it's out,
it's
today,
only-
right?
Yeah, it's out today.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
Also
it's on
Game
sale.
Pass. It's
Yeah.
on sale.
It's
It's,
on
on Game
Game
Pass.
Pass?
It's on Game
Shit.
Pass. It's on Steam. I would recommend getting it on Steam. It's a really cool game. I would
Yeah.
like to support the
How
developers.
much is it?
It's like
$12.
It's only $12.
Give them those $12,
It's-
y'all.
It looks like it's discounted from 15, but yeah, either way, it sounds
Get
Damn.
Norco.
What a
ridiculously.
fucking... That's a steal.
Its soundtrack is also fucking phenomenal. Its
Yeah.
music is really great. It has an accompanying album.
You can get that in the special bundle for $21.
There's an accompanying
lovely.
album by the Louisiana sludge metal band Thou.
Sick.
That is a
That sounds
companion to the
great.
game. Yeah,
yes.
it's really good.
I'm very excited to try that. That sounds like great post
Post-stream.
stream vibes.
Yeah.
Just get really down and dirty with some fun.
Really work on that
narrative.
depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited to look at it in conversation with our next Waypoint 101 game, and like different idea. No, like legitimately, this is not a bit.
Okay. I see it now.
In different,
Only via Faulkner, I think. But
I mean, like different imaginations of what the South is
Yeah.
and means. Like that is part of what Gettysburg is doing. Is like as a game that is recreating the Civil War. Like that is a very particular vision of what the South is and means. And Norco is playing in the South as a place in a way that is very, very exciting to me as someone who like really, really loves Southern literature a lot and is like deeply fascinated by it.
so that is Norco, and you can, as we mentioned, like it's on Game Pass. Check it out on Steam. I think the discounts are up until the end of the month, but either way, it's a very, very reasonably priced game. So it sounds like a very, very easy pickup, and sounds worth supporting. So check that out. We're gonna take a quick break here. And when we come back, we will cover some of what I've been playing and maybe look at some questions. All right, and we're back. Kato, have you been playing much, or have you just been like totally in producer hell?
Yeah.
Since
Basically, producer hell. I mean, I'm still playing Elden Ring, but we'll talk about that later, probably.
yeah,
I
I feel like we're not done with Elden Ring.
No, we're
We have a
absolutely not done.
moratorium on it for a little bit.
Yeah, that game is huge.
I still haven't beaten the boss I'm stuck on. I'll admit that. I still have yet to beat Millennia.
Great. Maybe I'll catch up. You just stay stuck there for a while. I'll catch up.
Oh, don't worry. I'm on it.
I am.
Kato, I'm really good at getting fucking killed by the
crushing
Valkyrie.
it at not,
thank you.
at not making progress.
I'm better than anyone else has ever been at getting fucking owned by Millennia.
Nice.
Are you like? I understand like the way a lot of people are going through this game is like you hit a roadblock and you go do something else somewhere else in the world. Have you exhausted options? Like, are you kind of like you now? Progress has to go through this boss for you, pretty much.
It is an optional boss, but it is.
Okay, this is not one of the mandatory Great Runes.
No, it's not one of the mandatory Great Runes. I have hit. God, this is the most fucking run shit I'm ever gonna say.
It's important for my character that I beat this boss.
It's important for my character that I beat this boss.
Playing game.
Not that
You're
kind of role playing.
Playing a role.
It is important for me that I beat this boss.
It can be, Rob.
It can be. Oh,
absolutely
yes. People can choose how they play. Absolutely. However, it does seem like this is where and this is how I'm making fun of the game runs headlong into the way the game is constructed.
It is. Well, whoa. I will push back against this and say that would be if I was fighting this at the wrong level.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm about a level 120, 112 in this game.
Yeah.
That is where about you should be fighting her.
Okay.
She's just really fucking hard.
Okay. So it's just not like you can go in and like spec out. Like there's not a spec that would have been easier for you, or
I can totally respec my character into a totally different build and be able to kill her.
Yeah.
I have no interest in doing that because that is not how I'm interested in, playing out this particular sequence.
Yep.
They also they did a patch recently.
Yeah, they severely nerfed my cool laser sword.
Oh,
which is fine. After this fight, I was going to stop using it anyway.
Cool laser, the Kamehameha.
Yeah, I was gonna switch off of it anyway after this fight, like because I was getting bored. You can you stay. They still have it. It's just weaker.
Well, yeah, but now it's not optimal.
It's not.
It's
not that it's not
wow,
optimal.
Destiny Kato.
Kato, it's not optimal. It's not completely It's not completely game breaking. If by suboptimal we mean not completely game breaking,
might as well throw this piece of shit in the content vault. Does this game have a content vault yet? It needs one.
It needs one.
All non-optimal gear. Boom.
Speaking of games with non-optimal content and a non-optimal content release strategy, Robert Zachney, how is it going in the world of cars?
Yeah, the world of cars.
How's Lightning McQueen treating you in the world of cars?
Did he die?
Kato, we got to stop doing this.
What? When have we talked about Lightning McQueen dying?
We all know this is a backdoor Paul Newman thing. We know we all know. Everyone here knows what you are doing. We all see what you were doing.
No, Kato. I felt in the depths of my fucking book. The way you said I thought Lightning McQueen died, I looked at Rob the exact same fucking way I looked at Rob when you said Paul Newman, the Pizza King. Like the beginning of that bit. You cannot. I will not allow you to manufacture this moment, Ricardo Contreras.
In the trailer for Cars 3, 4, it looks like Lightning McQueen takes a really bad crash against the wall and fucking eats it, like dies. And I never saw that movie because fuck the Cars franchise. But I thought someone else might be knowledgeable. Did he actually die? Is Lightning McQueen still
I mean, as I understand, a lot of cars die in Cars 2. Which is like
they do get murdered.
They go full Transformers movie
in
Cars 2, like not like.
One of them has a gun.
Weird.
One of them is a spy and has a gun in Cars 2.
Oh, does it like pop out of the hood like a spy? What's that game called? Spy Hunter.
Yeah, Spy Hunter. Probably yes, but I would much rather imagine a car holding a
Holding a
9mm
gun.
pistol. Yeah.
Like holding a gun with it's
like in the spokes of the wheel.
rear view mirror, or in the wheel. That's interesting.
In the wheel, yeah, kind of just like reaching it up there.
I was thinking the like side mirror turning into a small hand somehow, really grossly bending metal.
I'll be honest,
grip a gun.
The image of a car with a side mirror that is just a human hand is one of the most upsetting things I've ever heard.
I love it.
Speaking of upsetting, Rob Zachney, how is Gran Turismo treating you?
So, the report is mixed, but I would say Gran Turismo could be treating itself better. That is,
It could be loving itself.
yeah, that's the thing, and like it's one of these things that is tough to. There are so many things going kind of wrong at once that it's kind of hard for me to figure out, like, to what degree is this just like top down, like Sony mismanagement of like the game, pushing against what they built here, versus how much is the people who actually built the game, Polyphony Digital, who are wholly operated by Sony, but like to what degree is their vision also just kind of off? But to give you like the breakdown of what's actually happened here, last week. I finished a work day and I was like, time to go drive some cars, and the servers were offline. And
Wait, it's an always online game?
yeah, and it is pretty, which is already annoying because like substantially a lot of what you're doing in that game is like doing single player races.
Right.
So it is an incredibly restricted. The game doesn't have any kind of offline. Sorry. Allegedly, it has this thing called Music Rally, where when the game is offline, you can at least do fun little like timed race events while listening to the game's soundtrack. Can you overtake X number of cars in the time this piece of music plays? Two issues with that. One, game soundtrack is kind of a nightmare. It's not great. Like, I enjoy its sensibilities, but there's almost nothing in that game on its soundtrack that is like, there's some music where you're like, if this came on the radio and I was behind the wheel of like a V8 sports car, like I would probably kill people by the end of the song, right? Because I'd just be like, yeah, and you're just flooring it. There's very little in Gran Turismo 7's soundtrack where it's like, this is a fucking banger. Let's open this throttle open. It's more like, again, I think I alluded to the fact that like, it's like, hey, what if really childish renditions of classical music with a trip hop like beat behind it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that's what Music Rally is.
So you're saying the Sony music licensing isn't working out for them?
I think it could have. I just think you needed literally anybody else to start like rifling through the catalog. Right. The vibes of this are off.
Rob, it sounds like the way you're describing Gran Turismo 7 is it sounds like Gran Turismo 7 is like 6 months into like a relationship and really unsure whether or not there's a good foundation here, or if it's been a fun 6 months kinda, and the foundation is not stable.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the thing is, the flip side is like the fundamentals of like what drive a relationship are still really strong, right? It's just, what is all the other shit that I can live with? And can I maybe find a version of this functional relationship that doesn't come with all these like wild bits of baggage? Because
so Gran Turismo 7 is considering opening up its relationship, but hasn't fully decided yet, and you don't really know if it's like a temporary solve to a problem or if it's like an actual long-term, like healthier status quo.
Yeah, well, so the thing is, Gran Turismo 7 is not considering opening its relationship. Like, it's you're moving out, you're breaking up. Like, it might be we will wish you well, right. But I'm going to see other racing games. It's not the fix here.
Right.
It's going to be, I'm going to try to find a racing game that like provides a lot of the things that Gran Turismo 7 does, but without like feeling like a bone saw ripping through me at times.
Would you say that you're leaving your relationship with Gran Turismo 7 having a better understanding of yourself and kind of
like I've learned
want
so much
from the
from Gran
world than you
Turismo
went
7.
in? Yeah.
No, I mean, so the thing is the lack of an offline mode is bad. The fact they knocked their game offline for more than a day
Right.
doing an update was bad. That was annoying. But that's not actually like where things are really going haywire. That just sort of reminded everyone that like, hey, this is a really restrictive offline online requirement. The thing that really like poisoned things was that while they were doing that, the update that went wrong that caused them to be like, oh shit, we gotta knock the game offline for a day while we like rapidly do a hotfix to that. The update they were initially pushing through was the update where they're like, you know, the money that you spend in the game that you
Yes.
spend on all the other stuff, they were making it so you earned less from racing.
Yes, this is what I heard was like the I've been talking with other friends about this, and they were like, yeah, they broke the game's economy.
Badly. Like, it is, I would say before the patch, it felt like me just kind of hanging out playing the game. You made enough money that you were like, I'm making meaningful progress to like the next tier of cars, et cetera, or whatever. Now it's much more like you are on a treadmill. And unless you're willing to like fucking sprint and grind like mad, you are not going to be making much progress. The thing they explicitly did was they took all the races that were like pretty short, pretty easy to win, and had decent payouts, and they just slashed the payouts.
Jesus Christ.
So, and their justification was, hey, we don't want people to grind during this game. We don't want you to be repeating the same 4 or 5 races just to earn money. We want you to, you know, have fun, playing good races and
Give you less money?
yeah. But see, this is the other thing, Kato. See, now here's the context I need to give you. There's 2 pieces of context. One, and Kato, you saw a bit of this in the stream. There is a buy credits option in the game. So the in-game credits, you can just like top up your credits via the PlayStation Store. $20, 2 million credits. So yeah. So $1 equals 100,000 in-game credits as far as Sony's concerned.
How much is a car?
Great question. So most cars are only like 50,000 credits, 60, 70, 80.
So $1 will buy you 2 cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
races that you like people were grinding,
right.
in like a 5-minute race, you would earn like 30,000 credits for first place, and then if you drove a clean race, you get like an additional 15,000. So like
Yeah.
$45,000.
45K. Yeah.
So you're making like 50 grand per like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So not too onerous. Even there though, there were cars, the very high end of the game.
Yeah. What's the peak?
Well, I'll tell you what the peak is this week on auction, and they're special. Don't put auction houses in your game because
is limited
shit's gonna get
time?
fucked up.
You
Oh,
should
it's
not
limited
put
time,
auction-
baby.
You should not put auction.
It's
houses in
limited
your
time.
game.
There's a limited time. I want to say 1994 McLaren F1. It's not a Formula One car, but it's like the McLaren sports car is called the F1. It was 18.5 million.
So that would be $180.
185. Yeah.
185 real world human dollars
If you just wanted to be like, just give me that car.
from the bank where you also pay your mortgage.
Yeah.
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 And so Yamauchi is the game director for this. Posed like after they were offline for a
I
day,
heard this justification. It's so fucking
was
funny.
like, first we had to do a hotfix on the patch. Sorry about knocking your new game offline for more than a day. 2, yes, we want to like reduce we didn't want people grinding these races, but also why are the cars so expensive? We wanted to reflect their real world value and ensure that they felt special to the players. Now, here's where I do actually like. They have a point. The polar opposite of this is Forza Motorsport 7, which is just flinging cars at you at like a blinding pace.
That sounds great.
It does, but here's the thing though. You don't end up like forging any kind, like the cars stop feeling like individualized objects that you have a
Sure.
relationship with.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, okay, there's another heap of German racing steel.
Good
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Can you buy credits in Forza?
God, I can't remember. You buy it. They opened a
Certainly.
Probably, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing that really changes this discussion. There is that you can buy the credits.
Yeah.
So they have a monetary incentive.
I'm not
to-
sure you still can because like Forza Motorsport 7 is like in hibernation, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they've kind of shut that. Like
No,
the
I
game's
mean,
still alive.
in Gran Turismo, right? They have like once
Yes.
you've
Yes,
entered.
they have created
Yeah.
a massive like moral hazard for themselves
Yeah.
Right.
to make it impossible for you to progress, but then continue to be. Let me tell you about the other fucked up thing. I talked about this in the piece I wrote.
Please.
So, Kato's seen the taste of this too. You get roulette tickets
Oh, right.
for like completing daily rewards and such.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's healthy.
Probably not, but the thing is, don't worry. If you're worried about like, oh man, don't want these like little like roulette games to be too fun, they won't be because the hit rate on them is
Right.
like garbage stingy slot machine.
Yeah.
Where every time you hit it is because the thing is when like most of the time the worst option on the table is 5,000 credits. Every time you get that, you're basically like, this was not even worth the time for me to like open up the lottery ticket and like play it.
Right.
Like just complete waste. 5,000 credits is nothing.
Right.
Doesn't
Yeah.
buy you shit. But sometimes, let's see, things they will give you in the roulette wheel. Car specific parts. So it'll be like, this has a value of $28,000, 20,000 credits. Okay. But I don't own that car. And I'm not about to go buy this car so that my 28,000 credit muffler can go on it. Like that makes no sense. So it's just going to be like this
my God.
this part is just in your library.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be useful, maybe it won't, but it's not going to guide any decision.
Would that? Okay, I have a clarifying question.
Yeah.
So you said you get parts, right? Are those parts exclusive to the roulette system? Is it like
No, you can go-
This
you-
is our
no.
exclusive
So you go
$28,000
into-
muffler. Not actually $28,000. We just promise you would theoretically be worth $28,000 in theory.
No, it's not theoretically. It's
Okay, got
when
it.
you go to the car upgrading store.
Right.
That part would be there. So if you owned this car when
So
you
it
went to
doesn't limit those parts to cars you own.
Well, so every car gets upgraded separately. That's kind of the thing. So
Right.
like if you like it once you buy, for instance, an upgraded like exhaust.
For a VW van, for instance.
Right. That's the thing. You don't have an upgraded exhaust for every car you own.
Right.
You have it just for that car.
Right.
That's kind of how they're doing
Right.
this. So you get an out of context part for a car you don't own.
Okay, that's the thing I was trying to clarify is if it was like a pool that they are pulling from, and that is the pool of every car in the video game and not the pool of cars you own. How many cars are there in this video game?
Oh God, loads and loads and loads.
Like enough that it is statistically unlikely for you to get
Yes.
a part for a car
Yes.
that you actually
Yes.
fucking own?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool,
Like
cool,
I-
cool, cool, cool,
and-
cool,
but
cool,
you-
cool.
The
May-
other
you
fun
know,
part of this.
Maybe it's happened. I just haven't noticed.
The other fun part of this is oftentimes you'll kind of have a vague idea of what's in a loot box in something like say Apex, right? Like it
Right.
opens up and all it shows you is what you got. This one does this fun little thing where it shows you all the things that you could be getting, and it does a little spin around the wheel and like slowly ticks past the full car
Oh, yeah.
that is in there and like lands on the tiny pile of small credits, not even the bigger pile of credits that's next to it.
Yeah, there's always two piles of credits, and
Yeah.
one is like the shit pile.
Right, so it's yes.
Yeah, so like you were in like every time you get one of those, it's like
God.
the roulette tickets are meant to be like, and here's your reward for like playing every day, but it's like it's not a reward. It's like literally like
Wasted
I'm not
45
getting.
seconds.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the other thing you can get the car.
Mm-hmm.
You never get the car.
You never get the car.
No.
I think I got the car once.
Fuck you for
I
asking.
think in weeks. I think like in 3 weeks of the game, I got the car once. But you can also get an invitation. You get an invitation from manufacturer. You have an invitation, exclusive chance to buy a car. So you go to Brand Central, the repository for the factory new games from the elite auto manufacturers, which are partnered with Gran Turismo, which is all of them, by the way. You go to Brand Central and you're like, what have I been invited to buy? And you go into their shop, and the ones that you've been invited to buy have the little invitation envelope over them.
Mm-hmm.
What you've often unlocked is the ability to buy a 3 million credit
An
car.
exorbitantly expensive car that is going to be so many credits it would be totally
my
unviable
God.
for you to afford it. Yes.
Amazing.
Would this game be saved by a split economy?
A what?
A split economy. So basically a paid and free currency economy. Is there any rescuing it?
Instead of
No,
yeah.
I mean, I think there is rescuing it. I think they just need to rebalance their I don't think they've made any irrevocable mistakes.
Got it.
I don't even this stuff was here from the start. It just didn't bother me that much because the payout reward, the payout for races seemed pretty reasonable at the time. But really quickly it turns into just a slog to begin getting resources for expanding your car collection to the high end. The thing this patch really laid bare is the degree to which they are just fucking with the economy in what appears to be an attempt to just cause people to say fuck it, I will spend real money on the game.
Right.
So what's salvageable, and here's what's underneath the surface here, is the game is still probably the best there is at what it does. I was playing it the other day, and it is still cars feel much better than they do in Forza Motorsport 7. It's just no comparison. GT7 feels amazing to drive, and even it's not the game is bad if you don't have access to the best cars in it, but it is the fact that we are making progress a hassle at every corner so that you will make progress slowly and not be able to play around in the sandbox with these cars very easily.
Right.
And so I'd love, I do love really coming to grips with a particular car that I've tuned just the way I like, and I have that relationship. This game excels at that. But they've also placed it in this context of, well, just imagine how good it would be to drive one of these cars. But there's no path to doing that with the way they've created the economy.
Right.
There are higher payout races, but they're much the effort per dollar one is tough. And that's the other thing. You only get the big payouts if you get first place.
Right.
So the good races where it's this is what we want people, this is the experience we want people to have, is really tense, wheel races, really competitive. Well, if you're in a really competitive, if you're at the right tier, right, you're not winning every game. You're not winning every race.
No, not at all.
Right. So where Gran Turismo is where it's at its best in terms of yeah, you know what, I am perfectly matched for this difficulty level. Your reward is to get completely screwed on the money payout. It's
just,
you finished fourth place.
Yeah.
So that's the worth. I'll give you 7,500 credits.
Do you want 75 cents for a piece of gum at the store?
Yeah.
Having a
Little
having
Rob?
a little, remember a little flashback to picking a VW bus for a race.
Oh,
and
yeah.
tuning it as much as we could with all of your credits, Rob. I feel I'm sorry.
No, but the thing is, yeah, you lit a buck on fire, right? Who cares? The thing, but I will say,
Yeah.
I was I'm not rebuilding my bank, so I fed them $20, and then I was
oh no,
surely that will give me a leg up in the next tier and everything,
Right.
and Kato, it's a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and I still have 2 million credits. All that I've played, I still have that bank of 2 million credits.
Yeah.
Because what I spent and then what I earned off my spending, all of it ended up in a week of racing to basically just a wash
Even
cycle
out.
If that's
of the cash.
cycling, that's not.
Yeah.
You should be building.
Yeah.
Hey, this sounds not good.
So, and that's the thing. It gets tricky. A thing like this gets tricky to assess because when I'm playing the game, the actual racing game part, It's extraordinary. Again, best in class. What do you do with like the metagame elements when like they don't? This is the thing. Like, there are a lot of games that pull this stuff, but they fuck up. Like, they make the primary part of the game like less interesting, or like you just don't feel like it's less rewarding to just like play the base game because you're lacking some of these tools. Gran Turismo isn't committing that sin. It's not like you have to pay for a good time, but you are acutely aware that like, hey, you're playing at the lower tiers of what this game can do, and if you want to go play with like, you know, the high end cars, you can either make this game your fucking job in a way that is just like I think somebody worked out that it would be like scores, maybe hundreds of hours to bank enough for that like $185 car. Or alternately, you just say, fuck it, I'll be a whale, and you pay out. That's tough. Like,
yeah. I feel like another thing that like is weird to me, or it feels like odd to me, is just like the meta structure of this game seems the little that I've seen of it and interacted with it seems like so loose. I don't know. Like, I didn't get the sense that there was a structure that was like the push and pull of having to make money is part of the interest in like, will I survive this season or whatever. It feels like too like you're not jumping through. You're not like going through. It's not like a BattleTech session where like the point, the like tension of having to make credits and then repair your mechs is part of the gameplay loop. This feels like I don't actually know how the currency is functioning, especially given that you can just buy a bunch more at any moment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's one of those things like designing a game around this, designing around like in-app purchases. It's a corrupting influence because you just you
It
can't
fucks up everything. Yeah.
yeah.
You're just sitting there and you're like, to what degree is this motivated by like we do? Because he's again. Some of that logic was not wrong.
Right.
Like, there is something to be said for, like the BattleTech thing, where it's like, this is my mech. I've spec'd it out. I know exactly like this build. This game encourages that kind of relationship. And I could like, you know, a different version of this podcast right now, we're having a different conversation. I'm telling you all about like, I did this incredible thing with this BMW. It was amazing. And that shit is really fun. But then you're like, but am I also being steered into these like lanes because basically am I being steered toward like lateral progress because they are really trying to make it so that upward progress is just like miserable unless you're willing to spend money. And the other shitty thing is we all know that most players the math works out that like even if most players are like, fuck this system, I'm not climbing this ladder. It's just a handful of people are regularly being like, fuck it, you know?
Right.
It's just money. It's just a handful, like a relative handful of people are doing that. The math works out probably in their favor.
Right.
Yeah,
Right? This is the economy of whales.
If you have an $185 car in your video game, that's 3 copies of the video game, Gran Turismo 7, that one motherfucker is paying for. Like, that number works well. I mean, it sounds like, I don't know, this sounds. But I also think that like the BattleTech comparison is interesting because like what that has, but this very clearly doesn't, with that relationship between like developing relationship with a particular machine, right?
Yeah.
BattleTech has stakes.
Yeah.
This is just like, it's resource dumping without the stakes or narrative like structure required to provide that process with any like additional meaning.
Yeah.
Right, the consumption is in fact the process.
Yeah, like I guess you'd see like, yeah, if there were a thing where damage is permanent or something, or like you're racing for pinks, that'd be a thing that could like add stakes. But yeah, like for the most part, you're right. Like what you're doing is like, can I pour enough resources into making this car competitive at this race, in order to advance?
Right.
So
and it's fun to be able to pick the specific ways you do that, but like the monetary system seems to not really creating any interesting gameplay choices when there's that release valve of like, and time to dump more money in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, especially because like if you are fully kitting out a car to have like maximum flexibility, which you'll want to because of the homologation rules, you're going to spend like 100. Yeah, I threw it in there. I knew what you were gonna do. I knew you both smart.
We didn't do the bit. You know, we didn't do the whole like.
Yeah.
I didn't say I also do homo and gay shit this time.
But
It's
now
good,
you
though.
did.
Yeah. Did you
good.
say it last time?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Beautiful. But like you can have that where it's like you are spending 200,000 credits like creating a suite of possible upgrades for your car. So even the car itself can be just a massive money sink. And I think it's one of those things where I don't know. It's like it's just not enough to be a really good racing game that people enjoy for a few years anymore. It's got to be like this weird. It feels like to some degree there's a weird notion of like we have to maximize engagement, but often that takes on this really toxic cast of like, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to like saddle you with extrinsic rewards or like semi-extrinsic rewards. They're still in the game,
Right,
but
this
like
is live service game design.
Yeah.
Right? This is gacha and live service game design, and like I think the note here is that like this is live service game design at the intersection of we're seeing the live service game design at the intersection of like an established enthusiast genre.
yeah,
And that's I think possibly not the difference, but like a note here is that like, you know, gacha games as a like genre or as a mode of like design generally are in their own. The games are built around it, and like the genre is built around it. So like Genshin Impact is built around fundamentally this live service structure, or Arknights, for example, is a game that is like great video game in terms of like being a good tower defense game built around a particular gacha structure, right? Even if you have something like, you know, a first-person shooters are mass market enough that they are not designed to hit an enthusiast audience, right? Like Apex Legends can have, you know, fucking gacha shit in it with like its skins
yeah.
because it's Apex Legends, right? It is designed to be
Yeah.
mass market. Same thing with Fortnite, right? Fortnite gets to do this because everyone's supposed to want to play Fortnite because Fortnite is quote unquote for everyone versus this live service intersecting with like a particular like enthusiast game space, which seems like where Gran Turismo is.
Yeah, I think also like it used to be mainstream enough that people are like, this is still an audience that would consider itself like fairly mass market. And I think this is the other thing cuts against it. If I want cool shit in Apex, that's the game in town. Like, there's no, I'm going to go to Apex across the street. It's Apex. These are the
Right.
characters. Gran Turismo 7 now, as much as I say, like the handling model is great, the physics, etc. It's not like we can't name a bunch of different games with like
Sure.
similar selections of cars, identical selections of cars, and it's not like we can't name games where some of these like really high-end cars don't exist or haven't existed for a number of years. Because remember, like only so many like really awesome cars come out in a year. It's not like you know, a sports game where the current roster is what's relevant. It's like Gran Turismo is here's an awesome car from 1992, right?
I mean, how long was the development cycle for this one? Right? Like
Well,
how many
people have also noted like weirdly there's not very much you find after the year 2017. So it appears they might have like cut off all like onboarding of new cars. But more to the point, like you can find a lot of these cars well represented in other racing games that have come out over the years. So I think that's the other part is like this car is not this fake car is not $185. It wasn't $185 in any of the other racing games
Right.
I've seen it show up. And the fact that like this is happening now is rubbing people really the wrong way. Which is why, you know, we need Bungie to get in there. I'm sure once Bungie shows up to like illuminate the mysteries of live service game design, all these problems, these teething pains that Sony's experiencing will be solved.
Bun-
real money store, but it's only for anime liveries.
Stupid. Fucking.
I mean, that-
dumb
that-
shit.
That would do it. That would do it.
It would do it. It would do really
I mean,
good.
that's the Destiny model, right? It's like it's DLC, right? New content. But apart from that, the stuff that you're buying in the store is all cosmetic stuff for your ghost and cosmetic, like stuff for your guardian. This has credits built into gameplay in a way that I don't enjoy, because like even though you can get it in game, there's always that like, but I can also just buy it.
Does the homo and gay shit also apply to the game's multi? I mean it genuinely. I mean, does the homologation genuinely apply to the game's multiplayer? Like, are these same
Don't make me
systems-
tap the sign. I don't know what sign I would be tapping yet. We need a sign that I can tap. But actually, it's a good question. I see what you're asking. It's actually a really good one. So let me tell you about a little race I had last week.
Please tell me about this little race you had last
So
week.
there was here were the rules. You couldn't have a car the car had to be Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
The car had to be under a certain weight, so it couldn't be like some like monster or anything like that.
Can't be a bruiser.
Yeah, I think that might have been it.
So you're saying that someone had a much better car than everyone else?
Yes, like I go into this race, and like you would expect, everyone is there dusting off their Japanese like hot hatches that you get at the start of the game.
Right.
I'm there too, in like some sort of like it might have been a Honda Fit or something. Everyone's done this, and everyone's tuned it as much as they can within that weight requirement, because a lot of times like stripping. Or maybe the car had to be over a certain weight, but under a certain performance. That might have been the other cap they set up. Either way, the conditions of the race were everyone is racing small Japanese subcompacts that have like a sporty vibe. And there was a car that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
Didn't look like any of the other cars. Didn't look like a car.
What?
Sorry, it didn't look like a car.
You know how
Rob?
sometimes you'll see like concept art from a car, like a car concept that like never goes into manufacture.
Yeah, where the
but,
wheel is like a fucking orb or some
Yeah.
shit. Yeah.
This looked like one of those,
What?
and I was like, "The fuck is that?" And would it surprise you at all to know that it fucking shredded us? Like every
This
single
shit was out here with Omni wheels. They did not even bother turning. That shit just went laterally.
person was like, the person was like racking up like 7-8 seconds a lap faster than everyone else in a car class. Like it was just not supposed. It was supposed to be competitive. Like clearly, like this was a gap in the rules that like somebody had found like some invitation car that they had that like technically fit these requirements that just obliterated the rest of us.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah,
Do multiplayer races pay out more?
you would think, but no.
Okay, I was about to say because that would be
No,
that would be particularly heinous.
No, so the best payouts are the races that they put in the game as part of the single player. If you create a custom event for yourself, your payouts will just not seem commensurate with like the other events that, like they've built.
Sure.
So like no, they set like these particular events that like pay out. The multiplayer races don't pay out poorly. There's like if that's a good way to grind if you want to grind. But yeah, they're not particularly lucrative. So again, even there, you are the multiplayer is just more a way to feel good about beating up on other players.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like bullying.
Yeah, a little bit. I felt bullied. Although I did have the sweetest. Somebody tried to just shut the door on me. Like somebody was really like getting elbows out and tried to run into me rather than let me pass them.
Rude.
And like I was just seething. I was absolutely seething.
My Drivatar make it into Gran Turismo 7 somehow?
It's so the calculation they had made was when people do things that are considered penalties, there's like a penalty zone on the track where like suddenly your engine just like loses power, and you will like drive for like 5 seconds with like your revs capped at like 5,000 or something. You can't go very fast. And then the penalty zone ends and you pick up speed again. That's how they impose those rules. This person made the calculation because I passed them cleanly. I was going to pass them cleanly. I had like raced perfectly. I was right on their bumper, real evenly matched. At that point, it's all skill. It's all like It's all who is like had the cleanest lap
Right.
and who was coming down the straight with momentum. It was me. And I look to the outside. He swerves over to block me. I'm like, cool. I knew you would do that. So I was already moving back inside. F1 rules, you're only allowed one defensive move. This motherfucker just starts steering into me to try to like wedge me against a wall. And it could have worked. Like if it had happened, if he had blocked me, even penalized, I would have lost so much time in the collision that like he wouldn't have actually like suffered any consequences.
Right.
But instead I made him eat shit. And I felt really good.
Yeah, he dropped down to 5,000 RPM, and you just were able to zoop right around him.
Yeah, and also
hit.
still like him pulling that shit still slowed him down, right?
right.
He like suddenly drove like way less optimally, so he made it even more of a sure thing that like once his little like rinky dink shit failed, like he was fucking gone. And it was like, by the way, this is like one of 3 multiplayer races I've done in the last 2 weeks,
Yeah.
and I'm not spending too much time on that, and it's a good thing because I nearly opened up the like little message sender, and like
God.
I almost said something.
Toxic
Wow.
Rob Zachney.
No,
Rob almost
he's
had a heated
toxic.
gamer
He's
moment.
toxic.
No, it's Rob. If you're messaging someone, it's toxic. It takes a lot. There was the only time I've heard someone reasonably messaging the other team in a video game recently was when a friend of ours who plays Valorant said in all chat to the enemy team's Chamber. The character Chamber has an ultimate that if they land a shot, you die instantly. It's basically just like a better version of the best gun in the game, right?
Yeah.
The person missed 4 shots in a row.
Oh my god.
And this is a character built around this weapon. Our friend of the show, Joe, said in all chat, apparently, to use Chamber's ultimate, you click on the enemies and they die.
Oh my god. That is beautiful.
Toxic.
Which is
Amazing.
Is it toxic? Yes. Is it also
Yeah.
extremely funny?
Very funny.
Also, yes, because Joe is a very chill guy, and so him saying that is so fucking
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joe.
So I meant to read some emails today, but
Yeah.
I have somewhere to be.
Oh, right.
And then
Rob
we
has a
all have
tailor to
somewhere
go
to be.
to.
I do not have a tailor to. I have a tailor to go to.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I just out you as going to a tailor?
But no.
That's still in the front of the podcast.
Rob, please forgive me for outing you as going to a tailor.
I,
As having a tailor.
I already outed something worse earlier. So, like, people, yeah. Anyway, that's a wrap on today's episode of Waypoint Radio. If you want more from Waypoint, you can follow us on Twitter at Waypoint, Facebook and YouTube, Waypoint Vice. You can follow me at Rob Zachney. Ren,
You can follow me on Twitter at Ren or Raven.
Kato, you ready for this one?
Yeah, we're in the same room. Why wouldn't I be ready?
You don't sound like you were ready.
I'm ready.
Where can people follow you, Kato?
At @A_Kato_P.
Now, once again, we're streaming this Saturday for Trans Lifeline. You can check us out pretty much anytime on
interrupted
Saturday on
him.
twitch.tv/Waypoint. We might also have some interesting Waypoint Plus promotions for you, and I think we might be doing some truly offensively basic merch.
shit.
I've seen some mock-ups, and
We'll have real merch eventually, we promise. Like real merch.
yeah.
That is not
What do you think I'm seeing Lee Taylor about?
stupid. I gotta go to
I
bed.
hope there's Waypoint pants. I want my Waypoint pants, please.
So if you are a Waypoint Plus subscriber, we also just did a Waypoint 101 on We Know the Devil and Heaven Will Be Mine. We had a great discussion about that, so be sure and check that out. And hey, listen, maybe we could have given it a stronger endorsement earlier in the show, but Manhunting is also available on Waypoint Plus. We recently covered one of my all-time favorite movies there, Last of the Mohicans. So if you love 18th century warfare and West Studi as much as I do, give it a listen. And you can get access to all of that via waypointplus.com. Our theme music is by Bowen. The track is Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Learn more at waypoint.zone/BOEN. For now, that is it for this week. We will talk to you again on, well, we're not talking to you again on Monday because we're taking that day off. We're going to be very sleepy after the stream. So we'll talk to you next week. Until then, fuck capitalism. Go home.